One of the most important things a panel moderator can do is to prepare awesome questions for a panel discussion. Not just lame questions, not just softy questions, not leading questions. You want really awesome questions. I'm Kristen Arnold. I'm a professional panel moderator and a leading authority on panel discussions. And today we are going to be covering how to put together that list of awesome questions that will make that panel the hit of the conference. Let's find out how. No doubt about it. As a panel moderator, the questions that you ask can make or break a panel discussion. In this video, we are going to be covering the kinds of questions you can ask, as well as the sequence, the flow of those questions, and then finally, how do you find the questions that you should be asking to begin with? Let's dive right on in. So let's talk about a couple of overarching principles here. First, how many questions should you be asking? So let's do the math. Let's just say you have a 45-minute panel. You've got 5 minutes of opening stuff. Let's just say 5 minutes of closing stuff. You now have only 25 minutes in the middle. If you're going to do Q&A, maybe you've got, 5 minutes of Q&A, 10 minutes of Q&A. Think about it. You only have 15 minutes for that piece of a time where you are going to be asking questions. So you want to think, okay, how many questions can I fit in? Usually a question maybe every 2 minutes or so. So if you've got 15 minutes, 2 minutes, maybe 8 questions total. So I always like to have twice as many questions. So you got to do the math first. The other overarching principle that you need to keep in mind is that you are asking questions on behalf of the audience. Like the audience wants to know this stuff. So when you take a look at that list of questions that you've developed from your research of talking to the panel organizer, talking to the other panelists, talking to audience members, doing your research on the topic itself, throw out the ones that are dumb, that you just kind of go, somebody brought it up. You don't even know who brought it up, but it's not serving the audience. So now you've probably already taken that list and thrown out a couple. So now what do you do with it? So you want to take your list of questions and you want to sequence them from strategic to the benefits and consequences to the specifics and then application, like the so what question. So let's say you have a question that is very strategic, like, and I'm going to use my questions that are on my Flipboard because usually questions I don't remember very well. So I like to have them ready on the end. So how do you define the topic? That would be a pretty strategic, very general question. What do you exactly mean when you're saying the premise of the panel? Why is this important right now? Why are we talking about it right now? And I have a list of all kinds of questions you can ask at www.powerfulpanels.com/questions. It's also in the description below. So if you have any questions about the questions, you go right ahead. But you start with the strategic ones. And what you might find out is there's a lot of strategic questions that you were given and not so much from maybe another category. So from strategic, you want to go to what's the benefits or the consequences. So for example, what do you expect from this? Or what's the business case for pursuing this topic? Or how does the topic impact this group of people or a specific set of the industry? So those are impacts and consequences, right? So you'd put those next. The next one is specifics, which is what the audience is craving to find out. They probably may or may not know the general strategic and the benefits and consequences. So if you think that they already know that, maybe just one question from each of those just to kind of level set the field and then spend more time in specifics. But maybe they're new to that topic and you need to spend more time in strategy. This is all up to you. My personal observance is that most people are most interested in the specifics. So a specific could be something like, how do you make sure your organization is successfully achieving the result? From your experience, what are some examples of practice, of good practice? Or describe for us your typical day and how you deal with this topic. These are all very specific. Tell us more about the how you do what you do. Finally, there's the application piece. So what are we supposed to do with this, which is more around the audience? Notice the specifics, I'm talking about what they do. Application is about, so what should the audience do with this information? So some examples might be, where should individuals, businesses, organizations start on this topic? Or do you have a specific book or a recommendation or techniques that you recommend these people use once they leave this room? Or what advice or tips do you have for the audience to succeed on this topic? These are all now about the audience. So where do you find the questions? You find them from the meeting organizer. You ask the panelists. You can even ask the audience either from social media or have the meeting organizer send out an email asking what questions they want the panel to answer, and your own research. So now you have your list of questions. You want to cull that list down to about twice as many questions as you think you're going to be able to get around to ask. And you want to make sure you have 2 questions that each panelist is uniquely qualified to answer, so that if you ask the question, you kind of can use your eyeball to help that panelist know that they should be the one weighing in. They don't have to, but I think it's helpful and helps you manage the airtime. As you're culling your list, just look at it from, do I have enough strategic? Do I have the benefits and consequences, specifics, application? Where do I think my audience cares the most about? Is this really going to hit home? Is this going to give them information that they don't have anyplace else? Is it, bottom line, is it relevant? Finally, now that you have your list of questions, you want to ask yourself, so what's my first question? What's my first question? You can come out with a softie, like an easy lob. And I like to make sure that each panelist gets a different question. Or do I start out with a hardball question? Like, what's the biggest challenge you've ever faced? Now, I do like to let my panelists know what the first question is, because if it's a hardball, they should have been able to think about it. It's not fair to put them on the spot. The other way that you can start, as I mentioned before, was to gauge the room. Just, okay, so what have we got going on here? I did an industry panel, a state of the industry panel, and I had a series of questions that I asked the audience so the panelists could get a sense for what they thought, the audience thought the state of the industry is. So we did a very simple exercise using flags, different colored flags. I had a green flag for I agree, or it's increasing, yellow, I'm okay, or it's average, and red was it's decreasing or I don't agree. And it was just really a lot of fun that the panelist was able to see what everybody in the audience was saying with their flags and able to comment on it. So now that you have your list of questions, tweak those questions just a little bit for your script, and we have a video on that, so that you have the most amazing panel questions that will absolutely resonate with the audience, and the panelists are going to be able to give valuable insights and takeaways for your audience. That's a lot of information, and I know that you were probably, fast and furiously writing some stuff down. I have a special gift for you in that I have taken all of this information and I've crunched it down into a guide for you where I've got examples for very specific panels such as alumni panels, career panels, digital transformation panels, diversity and inclusion panels, fashion panels, female leadership panels, LGBTQ panels, nursing education panels, and women's panels, and a bunch more. So if you're interested, go to www.powerfulpanels.com/questions. We'll see you there.